This is 22 News in Focus.
Good afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Ciara Speller. Since 1967, Springfield Technical Community College has been educating students in a variety of career programs that serve the changing workforce needs of many industries. It is the only technical community college in Massachusetts. From business administration to biotechnology to IT security and health careers, STCC is an important resource for both students and employers. Today on 22 News in Focus, we're going to learn more about a new health science degree program, as well as workforce development programs. Joining me today are Dr. John B. Cook, president of Springfield Technical Community College, Dr. Raja Staggers, assistant professor and chair of the health science program, and Sultan Hussain, a student studying health science who aspires to be a physician assistant. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Cook, I'm going to start with you. First, talk about the many health-related programs that the college offers.
Thank you again for having us today. It's a pleasure. In some ways, where to begin? It seems like we have every program under the sun specific to that health area. It's been amazing because a lot of them carry an accreditation. So whether we're talking about nursing, which a lot of people know us for, but also medical assisting, respiratory, sonography, we have a good dozen programs that carry some type of industry accreditation, which is quite significant. It also means we have wonderful faculty-student ratios. And now, more and more, what we know is employability is such a critical part of the conversation. And these are not just specific skills, but specific credentials that our students are going to earn once they graduate and be immediately employable. So it's quite an array that we do have.
Right, and so Dr. Staggers, what is the new health science degree program?
Well, the new health science degree program, we like to approach it as a kind of a pathway option for students who are wanting to enter into the healthcare career field. Our program is a general degree, in fact, but it does have really specific components that will prepare students who are wanting to go and work right away. So we have a number of students who have ambitions to become nurses or physician's assistants, or who are wanting to go in other areas such as sonography. Maybe they're not prepared yet. So they use this as an opportunity to pursue a degree, to also take care of those prerequisites that they may be to go on to other healthcare career tracks. There are some students, though, too, who are not quite sure. So it's a chance for those students to explore what they would like to do after they kind of get their feet wet, if you will, in the field. Our program is fantastic that students actually have an opportunity to go into our simulation lab, if you will. We call our Sims Medical Center. And they can actually practice on simulators to discover if they feel comfortable, if this is what they want to do to go into the healthcare career field. So they, in our classes, though, too, they do different things. They have a chance to explore that with communications. So how would you talk to a patient who is distressed? How would you handle family members? How do you deal with ethical issues? How do we deal with technology in the medical field while you're also taking care of a patient? So students get a chance to discover if this is what they want to do.
And what makes this program unique to Western Massachusetts?
Well, I think part of it, though, too, is aligning with the certification option. I think that is unique in Western Massachusetts and probably even nationally. Something having a health science degree that does that, because the health science degree generally is a very general degree. So that is very specific and unique to this program. It's also, I think, a way, though, too, for more people who are wanting to get into the healthcare career field to do that. And there's always a need because we're seeing people are living longer, people need more healthcare services, and this is an opportunity to have more people who are prepared and have those qualifications to enter the field.
Right, and so Sultan, you would like to be a physician assistant.
Yes.
So what drew your eye to the program at STIC?
What drew my eye on the program is the efficiency of it. I believe the program has a lot of classes that are more direct to the thing I wanted to do, like Raja said, simulations, or programs like certificates like EMT beginners. I really like the program and especially the staff members in it. They're very go with me. They help me out and stuff. So.
And what type of student would you say that this program is designed for?
I mean, to jump in, first of all, what we know is our health programs are highly competitive. We are an open access institution, so any student who comes to us, we will absolutely find a way and a path. But because we can't accommodate everyone who wants to be in those accredited programs, we want to give them first a chance to try this. As Professor Staggers noted, when you have simulation, and in our case we have simulation to the tune of 60 of these different patients that really replicate lots of the clinical experiences, plus the certifications. this allows us to have students who aren't quite sure which aspect of healthcare or an applied health field that they want to work in. It gives them a chance to try that, get a sense of which direction they might head.
And what about the pathways for completion, the degrees or professional certificates that a student can achieve?
Yeah, so we have roughly 4 right now. We're still working on a couple of additional. So students can, typically the way it is designed, and we're finding that it kind of moves because it is an open access program. So the way that our curriculum is designed, most likely the second semester of the first year, a student will have an option to apply for a certification option. So we have community health worker. We also have EMT, patient care technician, and sterile processing. So they can complete coursework towards that certification.
And how about internships?
Well, that's the certification part of the certification is that students will be placed in those sites to do some of that work. We're also looking for internship options for our community health worker students. So I've been in communication with certain agencies locally. We're still looking for other agencies as well, though, too, because that is a slightly different track. So it does require work sometimes in a hospital setting, but it can also be a nonprofit organization or another health-based organization that's regional.
Yeah, and Sultan, have you had any experience in the field?
I've had similar experiences. I used to work in a CNA, and I used to watch out for people who are ill and stuff like that. So it's very interesting. So.
Right, and so what would you say to somebody who's maybe considering a career in healthcare?
I mean, for us, this is a critical, specific way to earn credentials and to really get clarity on it. First, is this a field that fits for them, but also really gives them something that they can go to an employer with and say whether they're an emergency medical technician now, whether they have that sterile health processing perspective now. Employer's going to look for that specific skill set and say, okay, there's employability right there. Those are the type of things that will make a difference on that occupation career pathway.
And so STIC is the only technical community college in the state.
We are, one of 15 community colleges strong. We like to tout our affordability aspect as a segment as well. But we, with that technical designation, really do carry this type of array of programming, and that's why it's important for us to have a health science degree.
Right, and so what would you say to other students about your experience so far?
I would say come to STCC. It's the most efficient way and smart way you can do it, because first of all, you don't want to have to go in debt, and it's very affordable. If you're going to a university 4 years of just you're paying so much money all your life for just the undergraduate degree. So for you just to go to STIC and get that degree, associate's degree, you'll be on top of the curve, so you should do that.
And what are some of the occupations that you've seen your students get right into after graduation?
Well, our program is fairly new. This is actually the first year of the program, so we're looking forward to actually looking at that data to see where students are going. We do have a number of students who are still working, who are actually already working, but they want this degree as well because they feel that it will help them in their current career. So we've got students who are medical interpreters, a number of students who are CNAs, and they're wanting to advance in their career. So this is an option for them, but certainly after next year, we'll have a better idea about where students are actually placed.
Right, and so healthcare is a growing
Absolutely.
occupation. There's always a need for people to take care of other people. So,
Absolutely.
What would you say, I guess, for students?
In terms of job prospects?
Right.
Yeah, so it's quite broad. I mean, on one hand, there are definitely patient care technicians in terms of people going out into the field doing different types of community level health-based work directly with this particular credential and degree. Certainly with adding those certifications, that actually specifies the options for students. So a student can get the certification in EMT, that really opens up in terms of what they can do. And these certifications also allow our students to engage in the healthcare career field in a clinical way as well too, because they're coming out with certain clinical aspects that you would not typically see aligned with a health science degree. So it's pretty open in terms of what it is they can do.
Right, and I think we touched on this a little bit, but do you have any community partnerships for job placement after completion?
We're working on that, though, too. We actually, currently right now, though, too, when we find with our certifications, our students, Allied Health overall, the School of Allied Ships, we actually have placements with Bay State, so we do see that our students going there as well, though, too, as part of that option, though, too, with the patient care technician certification for those hours, those credentials. But we are still opening up to that in terms of what that would look like for those internship opportunities for student placement.
But of course, this is a great location because, like you said, there's Bay State, there's tons of hospitals that are in the area, so of course.
We know Trinity Health, Bay State have been incredibly generous and supportive to us. Our faculty and our administrators work quite closely with them to have these specific workforce needs. We often talk in community colleges about building a ladder. A student comes to us and they're a CNA, a certified nursing assistant. That PCT, patient care technician, is that next step, will earn them perhaps more money per hour. Ultimately, when they earn associates, and then maybe they take the pathway to Westfield State and earn an associates in health science with Westfield, this is how you open up, expand, and provide a real career approach as opposed to just taking a job.
All right, wonderful. We'll continue our conversation when we return. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about the health science degree and workforce development programs at STCC. The healthcare science degree encompasses many facets of healthcare, opening unlimited opportunities for students looking for health-centered careers. Let's find out from one of those students. We have Sultan Hussain, who's joined us today. And again, you'd like to be a physician assistant.
Yes.
So tell us about yourself and how you decided a career in the health sector.
Well, I'm a first-generation son of my family. I want to become in healthcare situations because I want to help people and make people's lives better.
And what classes have you taken so far?
I've been taking a lot of biology classes, like and stuff like. I'm about to take EMT certificates on my general studies and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so a lot of studying, of course, goes into it, but
Yes,
extremely rewarding career as well.
Yes.
And what is your degree certification when you complete it?
I'm going to have a health science degree,
Okay.
and after that I'm going to take my master's from my physician assistant, so I can just go right into it.
Wonderful. And could I just have you two talk a little bit about what he's been studying and what that program is like?
I mean in some ways, Sultan epitomizes this conversation that we're having in New England, in the Northeast, and really across the U.S. Healthcare is such a critical industry. What we know from the Pioneer Valley labor blueprint is it is the #1 field, and it will continue to be #1 for a long, long time. So we want to make sure that we have a real open pathway for students who are even just thinking about it, don't necessarily know what aspect of healthcare. We want to make sure they have an on-ramp to these different pathways.
And so how did the door open for this program of study to become available at STIC?
I think for us the big thing was we have a number of students who come to us and they'll opt into general studies, but we wanted to give more definition in that. We wanted to give them some very health-specific experiences. We know more and more students love, thrive when they have a hands-on, a minds-on opportunity to really get their head around this. Professor Staggers would talk more about the certification and the simulation pieces are really just critical to us, and they really help distinguish us, I think, from what health science might be or how to really take advantage of that.
Right, and so, talk about speaking to incoming students.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Our curriculum is very comprehensive. I mean, we have a number of classes that really address how students will be expected to perform and behave when they're in a professional situation in health and healthcare. And the program is really designed for students to get a feel about whether or not this is really the path for them. A number of students will go into the healthcare fields, and this is really advanced levels. I've heard of doctors who've gone through medical school, right, and decided once they were there that this is really not the path for them for whatever reason. So very early on, we want to expose students so they can make decisions. It's also exploratory. Some students will come, and this is very common, they don't know what path to go on. They know that they want to help people. They know that they're very interested in health. They may have heard of nursing, maybe, but maybe not other career paths. And what we do spend some time in our very first class, our communications and professionalism in health and healthcare, taking time for students to explore those different path options. Students do have an idea about where they might like to go. They're learning about different career paths. And I take students through a walk throughout the semester, though, too, where they're actually taking a career and exploring, learning about the educational credentials to get to the particular path they'd like to get to. What does the salary look like? What are the other parts of that career aspect that you may not be aware about? What about maybe aware of? What about work-life, family balance? Where are the jobs? So they begin that exploration, and they're able to uncover what it means to actually hold on to be in this particular field and that specific area that they're looking into. We also have a patient care safety class where students are learning how to transport patients and determine if a clinical situation is safe for the patient, for the practitioner. So they're getting a lot of really good skills that you would not normally get in a health science program, which makes this program so special, as well as going into simulation. Students, I believe with my HSC 110 class, my communications professionalism class, students go in about at least 4 or 5 times a semester, and they spend time working around their communication skills, considering ethics, learning to use the technology. So it's really a great opportunity, and students often feel very nervous, but I think as we go through the semester, they become less nervous. And it is much more intimidating than I think that they may realize, so too, but it's a good opportunity for them to really push themselves and to understand if this is for them.
And Sultan, what advice do you have for students who are looking to get into the healthcare field?
My advice is to focus on things you need to do, because if you lose your focus, you're off the rails. Because a lot of people these days, like, they would do one thing and they do it so much that they burn out. So you just stay on your grind, stay on your focus, and don't get distracted by any means. So.
And what advice would either of you have for students?
Coaching, counseling, mentoring, when we can sit with a student, I like our chances, because one of the conversations we often have is what are all the other factors in their lives. A lot of them are parents, a lot of them are already working. Sometimes part-time is a really good choice, and we want to make sure that they know that schedule is certainly possible for them as well. Day classes, evening classes, sometimes an online class in there. Having that comprehensive conversation with them sometimes is really helpful as well.
And so with this health sciences program, online classes are available as well?
Yeah, especially for some of the what we would call general studies or sort of core foundational classes in there. If they need to take that writing class, sometimes not having to come to campus that one evening and instead they have the class available to them all week really changes how it feels in that semester for them as they try to piece this together.
Right, and so, why STCC?
No pressure. I mean, I think Sultan has already sort of in some ways framed it for us. Is we have a lot of students who have a sense of what direction they go to. They bring a focus. We have a lot of adults who have thought long about how do I get my toe in the water with this thing. When you add on the affordability piece, we can't talk about that enough. The fact that we are this most affordable institution in the city of Springfield. I think that's why it makes such sense for so many of our students who find their way to our campus.
Right. And I think it's that as well, too. I know that with our advising in the health science group, we take time to really learn what it is that students would like to do. So we have our curriculum, but we also try to see, okay, if a student is wanting to go into a PA program or if they're wanting to go into sonography, what are the prerequisites that they'll need, right? So we try to match that with what we need for our program so that students are well prepared to apply. And I know that myself and my colleague, we spend a lot of time really working with students so that they are well prepared to apply for programs when it's time. So usually by, say, February, the last year, we're making sure that our students are prepared for that. And I don't know if every school does this the same way because we're talking about students who are wanting to go, there are different pathways, different careers. But that is something that we do because we know that our students are not just going, from health science degree to a health science program. Right. So we're taking the time to be able to make sure that they're well prepared.
Right, and as you said, this program is still very new, still in its genesis, but what are your hopes for the future of this program?
I mean, we have great hopes that, again, for students who sometimes say, well, I'll come and I'll be a general studies student, the idea that they'll actually go that step further with encouragement on our part to say, let's actually formalize this approach to healthcare and really think about these possibilities. Plus, with these experiences, the fact that they will earn a specific credential, it really will change the direction they go. And we're hoping hundreds of students will ultimately follow this type of path. As of right now, I mean, we're a college that has 500-600 students plus in our array of health programs. When you add in our hopes and aspirations for health science specifically, again, you bring a real critical mass to this conversation of the healthcare field and workforce needs.
Right. And what would you like to see happen in the future?
Gosh, I would, of course, like to see the program continue to grow. I would like to definitely build the number of organizations that we're associated with for internship opportunities. Definitely begin to track after a number of years where our students are actually going for job placements. I think that really the possibilities are endless. It really is. It's a really wonderful program, and definitely adding on to our certification options as well.
Wonderful. STCC provides training to meet the needs of many other industries in our region. We'll learn more after our short break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Watching 22 News in Focus, and today we're talking about the many programs available at Springfield Technical Community College that meet the needs of students and businesses in our local communities. The Baker administration has been a strong supporter of vocational education and workforce development. The governor created a workforce skills cabinet that aligns the executive offices of education, labor and workforce development, and housing and economic development toward a comprehensive economic growth agenda. Many vocational and technical schools across the state are creating programs to meet the needs of growing and new industries, an effort to help these businesses stay in Massachusetts and provide stable and well-paying jobs for residents. Joining me now to discuss the workforce development programs at STCC are Dr. John B. Cook, STCC President, Gerardo Zayas Jr., Assistant Vice President for Workforce Development at STCC, Rick Jagodowski, Department Chair of Electrical Engineering Technology, and Julian Skip Tenzar, Instructor and CRRC Electrical and Mechanical Assembler Training. All right, thanks for joining us today. So our first question, we hear the term workforce development, but what does that involve?
Truly, it's a comprehensive conversation where we, in some ways, as the community college, are at the fulcrum. We're right in the middle of that conversation where we're trying to compare the preparation of individuals to work with employers who say unemployment, unemployment is low. We really need to expand our workforce. Business is good. How do we hire more people with specific skills? So really, workforce is that conversation around really trying to connect people with skill and employees who want to hire them.
Anything that either of you guys would like to add to that?
Sure, I'd like to add to that.
Sure.
One of the important things about workforce development is we take the approach in a two-pronged approach. We often look at who are the individuals that might want to explore something new, have been in the field for a while. There's an option for that person, and there's also an option for the person who knows their skill sets and want to climb up the lattice, the career lattice, and say, I need X in order to kind of get to that next level. So we oftentimes approach it from those two prong approaches, and it actually works pretty well because it goes from literally beginning to end in a nice way.
Right. And what types of state and federal funding has the school received specifically for workforce development?
I'll have Gerardo chime in, but
Sure.
There's always a mix, and we definitely always pursue opportunities where they come. Sometimes it's less making sure that we are not overly reliant, if you will, on some of those funds that sometimes will come and go. What comes to mind are some of the examples we'll talk about when MGM comes and they say we're going to open up a casino with all the other jobs as well that come into the tune of 2,000 or 3,000. We partner with Holyoke Community College, create a casino school, and train dealers. We didn't necessarily need state monies to make that happen. We put a model together that allowed us to partner with MGM. But it's the responsiveness. That's really at the heart of this consideration.
In addition to that, we currently have a grant called the Train Grant. It's a state grant. It's a collaborative grant between Holyoke Community College and Greenfield Community College as well. And that particular grant is, I call it a sample platter of different career sets. For example, we are doing an introduction to advanced manufacturing component where individuals can come through. It's for free. It's a short-term contract, or grant, excuse me. And they come through for 3 weeks, do the career readiness or the essential skills. How do you interview? How do you make sure you prepare your resume? How do you job search? All these things to prepare a person to kind of find a new niche in their career. That's one part. And then the other part is to have them sample an introduction to advanced manufacturing, where they're actually going to be in the lab on our part for advanced manufacturing. Whereas Holyoke, they're looking at hospitality and culinary, sampling what's it like to work in these industries. It really does give them a hands-on approach. I know with our approach, we will be having a camp after they finish the career readiness. It's about 2 weeks worth in our lab, and what ends up happening is they do project-based. So what that means is they're going to actually work on something that they're going to be judged on. We're going to have local companies come in, judge them on that, and then also provide them with interviews as part of the package. And I think that's really important, that introduction doesn't have to be stringent. It just has to be interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think being able to kind of offer that option is exciting, and that's about to launch in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so Rick or Julian, which industries are seeing the biggest growth and need for trained employees in our region?
Well, in our area, I would say we see a huge increase in the demand for people in manufacturing, advanced manufacturing specifically, in the fields of automation, robotics, just the skills, computer integration. We hear a lot of talk now of the internet and the Internet of Things, and part of that is the industrial Internet of Things, which is going to help with the automation and data collection. And the skill sets for those are just rapidly growing. The demands for those jobs are rapidly growing. I've been at the college for quite a while and don't remember any time where the demand for skilled labor with specifically these type of technical skills has ever been there. It's pretty impressive.
We also see a lot of companies looking for programmable logic controllers, people who are programming them, looking at CNC repair. So it's been an incredible job market right now for people who have technical skills.
Right, and we touched a little bit again about partnerships and internships. Could we just talk about that again?
By all means, and we tend to talk about the big three. Healthcare, of course, is a tremendous industry in great demand for skilled workforce. Manufacturing, especially in Lower Pioneer Valley, it really has a workforce need as well. And IT, and as our faculty discussed, that connectivity piece, that technological aspect of all things, the fact that there isn't just a high-tech industry, every industry in some ways is high-tech now, and how are we providing training in a shorter way, whether it's some of the workforce trainings that we'll talk about that carry a certain number of hours, whether it's a one-year certificate if you go full-time or a two-year associate's degree. We're really putting some lab time and some hands-on experiences in front of these students, and that's really meaningful. It's a powerful way to gain access into these fields where they will pay very well for that skill set.
And so are you seeing these businesses hiring students right after they're complete at STCC?
Oh, absolutely, yes. More jobs than we have students to supply for them, to be honest with you.
And to add to that, it's shifted a little bit in a good way, where a lot of the organizations had initially wanted only full-time. And they're hurting so much, and especially advanced manufacturing, that they're willing and able, and they have flexed their schedules, the student schedule, to work for them while they're still in school, which is really an amazing plus experience for that student to have that experience plus the degree or the certification that they have when they walk out of STIC.
And lastly, we mentioned that STIC is the only technical community college in Massachusetts. Are you seeing a lot of students from out of state enrolling?
We'd like to see more. For sure, that would be wonderful, and we'll find a way to make that happen. I think we are still demystifying what manufacturing is. At a place like STCC, we have the electrical and robotics aspect. We also have photonics and lasers. There's the mechanical aspect of it. So trying not to overwhelm students who are interested in this. They have a mechanical mind for things. They like to use their hands, take things apart, put them back together. I think we still have our work cut out. And yes, it would be wonderful to have students not just from this region, but perhaps a little bit further out. How we entice them, what are the ways to allow students who themselves often are working already to find their way to us. We're working on it. We're chipping away.
Okay, and quickly, for older adult learners who may have lost their job or looking to change careers, what opportunities are there for them at STIC?
I'll say a lot of times, I think there's tremendous opportunities, and to some extent, I think a lot of times the skills they bring from a previous job actually benefit them and put them in a better position, even if they change their, career. They still bring along some good skills, the soft skills, as we call it, knowing how to show up to work on time and things like which some of our younger students have trouble with. But yeah, they often bring a maturity level that is just really phenomenal, and I think they're a good influence actually to the younger set that we have there as well.
All right, thank you so much. We'll continue our conversation after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about health, career, and workforce development programs at Springfield Technical Community College. Let's look in more detail at some of those programs that you have at your school. Advanced manufacturing. So what is advanced manufacturing and what types of jobs are needed?
What I'll say before turning up to some of our very talented faculty and staff is this is our contribution to the STEM conversation. Obviously, science, technology, engineering, mathematics is critical. It's talked about all across higher education. And as a technical community college, we have a lot to offer when it comes to this conversation about manufacturing.
Okay, I guess I'll give this one a stab. I guess advanced manufacturing is kind of interesting because it'll mean different things, I guess, to different parts of the manufacturing segment. But I guess one way you could look at it is, to some extent, it usually means that there's a higher level degree of knowledge that has to be obtained to be able to follow detailed instructions, often with the aid of a computer, often using equipment or test equipment that has a fair amount of training involved in it to use it accurately. A lot of times it's very precise work, or it's maintaining equipment such as robotics or the PLCs and things like that, that are controlling an automated process. So it really is a diverse skill set that is needed in many cases.
And what are the classes or training that's involved?
Some of the course, well, PLCs, which I guess I'll define, is a programmable logic controller, and it's a specialized computer that basically controls automated processes and things like that. So, but those require programming, they require wiring, updates. Everybody knows what a touch screen is today, and just about all the PLCs are operated through an HMI, which is a touch screen. So those are some of the skill sets we offer to our students, as well as the traditional, electrical and electronic. They still have to be able to follow and troubleshoot cables and wiring. So those basic troubleshooting skills, and using test equipment, and then robotic programming and computer programming and interfacing. So we have a pretty diverse set of courses in our program to help supply the needs of industry for those areas.
Julian, would you like to add something to that?
I was just going to say, when we talk about advanced manufacturing, it's everything from photonics and lasers to our mechanical engineering technology with CNC, coordinate measure machines, the list goes, CAM, CAD, we're using SolidWorks software, Mastercam software. So there's a whole array of very technical skills, and in the Pioneer Valley, there's more jobs than people to fill those jobs today.
I'll add to that. So for example, if you go on Indeed.com today and you just type in advanced manufacturing, there are over 300 jobs in advanced manufacturing within a 25-mile radius from Springfield. You have different levels. You have your entry, your mid, and your executive. For example, the entry, there's over 50, the mid, there's over 150, and the executive, there's over 60, excuse me. That's a lot of jobs, and they require a different set of skills. And I think anyone going into a field that you're not familiar with, it's kind of hard. It could be overwhelming. And I think what we offer as an organization is the ability to kind of sample, to really understand what is the intro to advanced manufacturing. If somebody has the mechanical skills that Dr. Cook was referring to earlier, that's your foot in the door. If someone has that leadership skills to say, you know what, I can take my hands, connect them to my brain, and actually create a career pathway, I think we do a very good job, because you can come in and do a certification training to be introduced. Then you can say, you know what, I might like that job. I might get the job with that certification on the non-credit side. A year later, do you see another job, and that job all of a sudden requires an associate's degree, right? You have to end up saying, all right, well, I had that great experience in that learning curve with the certification program, then come back to STCC, come back, get that associate's degree, then you get to that mid-level job. Then you get that 2-year degree, you get the associate's degree, and all of a sudden, you know, at the executive level, they might require more than that, or they may not. I mean, these jobs pay from a range, when I talked about earlier, the entry to the executive, they go from 40 grand to 80 grand a year easily, starting. And those are pretty good salaries for an individual who's trying to explore or to enhance their skill sets within advanced manufacturing.
And we have industry safety. So what is this program?
So industry safety pretty much is, most industries have a requirement to have their employees tested on their knowledge of, say, accidents and falls. For example, we have this training called OSHA 10. A lot of people out there are familiar with OSHA 10. It goes into protective gear, preventing falls. That's one example of the safety trainings that we have. We have Serve Safe. If a person is working in the kitchen, they need to understand not to cross-contaminate foods from one to the other.
Right.
You get certified in that. So those are like almost 2 examples. Even though there are more than that, those are the most common ones we actually offer.
What types of jobs and pay are available in this industry?
Within those, it varies, because this is usually an add-on skill.
Okay.
And what I mean, it could be in healthcare, it could be advanced manufacturing, it could be IT, depending on your work environment. These are just certification saying I know how to be smarter, safe, and prevent.
Okay.
Because liability is a big L word in any industry, and that is kind of a way of saying let's try to prevent the liability by having individuals participate in these certifications.
And then we have information technology.
Correct.
A growing and consistently changing industry. What types of career programs and continuing education programs for IT professionals are offered?
I mean, again, in that sort of vein of big three, manufacturing, healthcare, IT, we know there is just such demand for employees, capable, skilled employees. Cisco certification is one of those specific things that you hear oftentimes. In this field, it's less definable than healthcare necessarily. So this idea of we have a cybersecurity, information security type program that's in IT. We know that associate's degree matters more and more now. A lot of these industries, they are re-examining what a bachelor's is as their threshold as opposed to an associate's degree. I think at the end of the day, one of the things that's always important for us to mention is how do we invite new individuals to consider all of these fields. In our case, it's really thinking about women and talking to our communities of color and not just trying to recruit them, but really trying to deepen the understanding for the possibilities. I think about a young woman who is 2 years out from our mechanical engineering program. She's buying a house. She's buying a house because her income clearly is that good, and she has done that well in her area. So when we look at some of the different businesses, this is why when Mass Hire does a survey of small and medium manufacturers, over 40 of them respond saying there's this need that they have, and they're going to turn to STCC for those conversations.
And just quickly, before we mentioned that you do offer online classes, which can be good for somebody who has a busy life and has a family and maybe they don't have time to go into the classroom. So is this a program that can be completed online as well?
I have these conversations with faculty, and I'll let them chime in. There are some things that are so valuable to do in person and do with your hands. That's the piece that I want to make sure that our students, our future students know is, I think that's part of our value proposition, by the way, is come into our labs and get your hands on some of that stuff. But yes, we have opportunities to take some of the hybrid work, some of the what we'd consider lecture, and put that online and give them more flexibility. And yes, some of the other classes that kind of round out a student, they may be more advantageous to take online. It may not necessarily be specific to any of these engineering programs or these IT programs, but we definitely are working as a college to try to find more opportunities when it's appropriate and in partnership with faculty to expand those possibilities.
Yeah, I agree. I think the online hat is a component. Obviously, we do a lot of hands-on, so it just requires the students to do labs and know how to do the wiring or operate the equipment. There's a few courses where we'll have them do some simulation. For instance, in the PLCs, PLCs 1, they do a lot of simulation. Then when they get the PLCs 2 and they have to wire it up, all of a sudden it's like, well, anyway, it's a lot easier on the simulation. Things don't spark and arc and burn out and burst into flames when you do it on the simulation. So it really needs to be a balance. And some of our students really do better with just having personal contact there. They're not the online students. So it's great that we offer, alternatives depending upon the learning style of the student.
And a lot of our students are working also, so the online component for the more of the academic Englishes and maths and things like that work well for them, because then they can be working in the field, taking the technical classes, and then also the other classes also.
Okay, thank you. When we return, we'll learn about prospective students need to know when they're consider enrolling at STCC. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus, and today we've been talking about health, career, and workforce development programs at Springfield Technical Community College. The school is located not far from downtown Springfield at the location of the former Springfield Armory. Thousands of students from local communities attend, including those who have immigrated from other countries. So do you offer English as a second language programs?
We do, and as we also share with people, we're very proud to be federally designated as a Hispanic serving institution, which in our case means almost 30% of our students identify as Latina or Latino. So we have quite a diverse student body, and yes, often with some English language learning needs that we try to build some programming around it, and really again an on-ramp into our certificate and degree programs.
And who would you say should take this program?
So for ELL, and I'll ask Gerardo to jump in, a lot of it is a conversation around what's the goal, if you will, of the student. Are they looking for something that is very short term? Do they have the time and opportunity to enroll and matriculate at the college and spend that in some capacity, depending on what other obligations they're balancing, maybe they're working. But we tend to have lots of conversations about how do we be helpful to the individual.
And I'll add to that, obviously. So we have an adult learning center, and what we offer is we offer free services for individuals who want to attain their HiSET or GED. These are individuals who English is not their first language. We offer day programming and evening program. And depending, as Dr. Cook said, on the individual, what is the goal? Do they want to go to school after they get their HiSET? Do they just want to get the HiSET to work? Those are two questions that are very important in order for us to help guide and provide them guide them in the pathway that which track we're going to put them in order to make sure they're successful in completing our programs that we offer.
And what are some of the other programs that you offer?
Sure. We have recently paired up with CRC and a local organization, Only Farm Workers Council. This was a first pilot of its kind, and I'm really excited to talk about it with obviously my colleagues here on the left. We met with CRC because they were having issues with filling positions, specifically entry-level positions. We had an organization, the Farm Workers Council, reached out to us, and we had a conversation of what would it look like to create a training to provide the individuals with the right skill sets to start a career pathway. I think when people look at it as a job, it's just the job. We were looking at it a little bit more holistic and a little bit deeper than that. And what we did is we met with them. We asked them, what is the job? What are the skill sets that are important to CRC? What are the skill sets important to the industry? After walking away from that meeting, my wonderful subject matter expertise on my left, we sat down, we created a 75-hour training that really introduced electrical, mechanical assembler information in order for the person to really apply. The great thing about this carrot was once you complete the program, you are guaranteed an interview. No place can guarantee you the job, but the interview is really important. And the Union Farm Workers did a lot of the career coaching piece. We provided the technical piece. We had 24 slots to begin with. We had 2 cohorts. And to give you kind of an idea and understanding, 17 people were the first cohort, 16 completed, 14 interviewed, and I want to say close to 10 of those had landed jobs in companies, CRC being the primary, but also Callaway, and also Universal Plastics. These are organizations that work with STCC. We have long history with them. And they clearly and easily stepped up to the plate and said, if they're ready, we'll come and talk to them. And I thought that was a big step for individuals who might not have ever applied for the type of jobs that we prepare them for. Right. So that's really exciting. You guys want to add to that?
And I remember talking with Rick and him expressing his pride almost in the capability that he was seeing with students. I know Rick wants 15 weeks. He wants a whole semester with students, and he had only had 75 hours to work with. But I heard great satisfaction on his part on what he was seeing and where he was able to get students moved to and prepared for.
Yes, the students were great. The other thing I'd like to say, just to add on to that, we gave them some basic hands-on skills. But what kind of Skip and I were teaching was really kind of nice to see is the class was half female. And normally in our technology courses, we don't see that. We see maybe 10%. But sometimes the females are a little concerned about how they'll do in that arena, and they did fantastic. They tend to be much better at details and following directions than the men are. The guys just want to get things done, but the women seem to really, you can give them a detailed procedure and they'll follow it from beginning to end, very meticulous, and they all did very well.
They did, and they seemed a little concerned at the start if they could handle it or they handle the rigor of the program, and they were phenomenal, and they just stepped up. They were, and actually everybody in the entire program all the students were absolutely great.
I mean, these are our 2 middle names, and to give credit to New England Farm Workers Council, who, as Gerardo mentioned, came to us with the invitation to go meet with CRC. They bring that community piece because they have an array of human services like emergency shelter, fuel assistance, child care vouchers. So they have access and trust with a whole community, and they help diversify these different classes that way. So we've really appreciated that kind of partnering.
And describe the type of training that the prospective CRRC employees received at STIC.
We gave them a combination of electrical and mechanical. I started off doing some safety with them because you always want to make sure they operate in a safe environment. And then mechanical skills, just wiring, crimping, skipted.
A lot of electrical skills, basic electricity, voltage, current, all of those things, and troubleshooting. And then, as Rick was saying, basic wiring skills. So they were able to do interconnects and so forth. And we modeled it after the CR site company as far as labeling and things like that there. So they were ready to step right up and go to work for CRRC.
And just quickly going back to the partnership with the Farm Workers Council, do you plan to, this is a program that you want to continue in the future, seeing so much success with it?
We do, to give a sense of all the different spaces that we're trying to work in. And some of it is this three-legged stool where we have the large nonprofit, the community college, and an employer. We're going to expand in the area of water, the water workforce, so drinking water treatment, wastewater treatment, also has a workforce that is retiring, and there's a lot of interest and need for that. The college has partnered with our fellow sister community colleges to create an online opportunity where you can then sit for your Board of Licensing exam to work in drinking water. That's the type of thing where, first in its kind, we're going to leverage the online platform, and it really can potentially draw new audiences in. We've been partnering with Springfield Water and Sewer, and we hope also with Boston Water and Sewer to really stitch this across the entire Commonwealth. These are the different sectors that are really calling out for workforce needs.
And so you said that you collaborated with other community colleges in the area, so Holyoke Community College, Greenfield Community College?
Yeah, and because key for us is we want to continue to add that little bit of hands-on, so what we're calling a micro internship, in addition to these online things, as we're sort of encouraging, in this case, everything is sort of, we're going to try it the first time, see how we do, and in this pilot phase, see how does it work when we work with community colleges locally, where they can get the individual to spend a little bit of time at their local wastewater drinking water treatment facility, take the class online. We're hoping, especially because we're going to make it free for community college students, do we really change the number of individuals who will look at an industry like that?
And what about bigger universities like UMass?
Yeah, well, it's surprising. We transfer over 200 students, 150 students every year to UMass Amherst. We know these public-to-public partnerships are even more important. We probably don't talk enough about the Commonwealth commitment. What that does is really have that affordability conversation where we say, if you go 2 years at STCC and then 2 years to Westfield State, your entire into bachelor's degree is going to cost no more than $25,000. In the case of UMass Amherst, it's going to be no more than $34,000. Significant savings than if you otherwise started at those two institutions. This is why it's really valuable for our students to really consider that community college as their first step.
Right, great resource. And we'll have the last word for you after the break. Stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus, and today we've been talking about health, career, and workforce development programs at Springfield Technical Community College. That's our program for today, and we want to thank you for joining us at home. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, if you missed it, you can see the full thing on our website, wwlp.com. For all of us here at 22 News, we wish you a wonderful day.